Hello, this is Professor Tom with an interesting little story from my life. I entitle it The African Prince. Many years ago, I was living in Lawrence, Kansas, and I went to something called a Full Gospel Businessmen's Meeting, and there I met Busby. Busby was an African tribesman from the Na tribe in Ghana. His uncle was the king of the tribe. That made him an African prince, or in his country, a high-status person. He was going for his PhD in engineering at the University of Kansas. Now, it turned out that we ended up sharing my apartment. So, all of a sudden, I had a roommate that was an African prince. It was an interesting experience. Busby had started out back when the Soviet Union was still a country. And because he came from a high-status position in Ghana, he got a full scholarship to Leningrad University. He went there and he got his master's in engineering. Now, Busby, when he was in the Soviet Union, was a chocolate drop in the sea of alpine wine. The women went wild over him. And then he went back to Ghana with his master's in engineering and eventually got a full ride for a PhD in I guess you would call it, well, but it's engineering. But anyway, Busby got to America, and his full ride for a PhD was not that much money, but he got a class every semester, and in addition to teaching one class every semester, he got enough money to live like a poor student. But Busby was very frustrated because when he was in Ghana, he was a high-status noble. All the girls loved him. Economically, he was one of the few people that had a car. He gets here, he can't afford a car, and yeah, he's a short black guy that doesn't speak English with an American accent. And yeah, basically he also had an attitude of, I'm special. He was a nobleman, and then when he was in the Soviet Union, he was the unique guy that many Russian women sought out for a good time. And he gets here, and women ignore him. Ooh, Busby had a very, very hard time. And at one point he came to me and he said that he'd been called into the head of the Affirmative Action Bureau, or whatever you want to call it, department at the University of Kansas. There was a woman that ran it named Barbara Ballard. And Barbara Ballard was black. Busby gets called in. It seems that while he was teaching graduate classes, he would hit on every cute chick in the class. In America, you don't do this. Okay, you ignore the female students when they're your students. And Barbara basically told him, and this is the interesting part, that usually you would lose your scholarship and we would kick you out of the university. But because you're African, I'm going to give you another chance. Don't do this anymore. Busby was not happy about this. But anyway, I've gotten into enough of the story of Busby for the moment, so I'll catch you up some more on this later. Adios.